good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanshi welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First Year Group to the second day of Philippines Solar Week
Solar Week
3.
3.
Hope you had a good time in networking with your peers today. Now it's time to start with our second day of conference. But before that, I take the pleasure to thank our partners for extending their immense support to organize the event. So, starting with our presenting partner SMA Solar and our platinum partner Goodby. Now, let me quickly take you through the agenda for the day. We will be having two sessions today, and which will be focused on rooftop solar sector. The first one would be rooftop solar policy and finance outlook, and the second one would be future technology advancements in rooftop solar, focus on energy output. And after that, we will be having our much awaited award function. We are playing our sponsor video of SMA, which is our presenting partner, along with that, Goodby, who are our platinum partner. Requesting my team to play the video. Thank you so much, team, for playing the video. And now, without any delay, let's begin with our first session on rooftop solar policy and finance outlook. But before that, let me see, is everyone with me? Should we start the panel discussion now? Okay, great. Seeing all the thumbs up. Okay, now I know everyone is as excited as. Now it's time to begin with the first panel discussion. And to discuss this, we have in our elite panel Mr. Sandro Brudry from Total Solar Philippines, Ms. Chini Defensor from NG Philippines, Mr. Frank Constant from Coastal Energy, and he's also the session chair for today, Mr. James Baskowitz from Baskowitz Group, Mr. Deepak Khetarpal from SunSource Energy, and Mr. Mike Consehem from Solar Energy Philippines. Now I welcome all the panelists on the screen and requesting Frank sir to lead the discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. So we've got an exciting panel here to discuss on and share view on the rooftop solar business in the Philippines. Very luckily, we've got people who know much more than me about the Philippine solar sector on the rooftop solar. We have a mix of experts coming from the business development side, from the EPC side, and from the finance side, who have been very involved in the Philippine solar sector for a number of years. We have, we have large companies, large investors, as well as mid-sized companies. We mentioned among the large company, we have NG and Total. So we have Shini from NG and Sandro of Total, we share their view. On the EPC side, we have James of Buskowitz, and Mike of Solar Energy, who have been both active in the EPC sector in Philippines for a number of years. James being of German Filipino background, and Mike being more of Dutch background. You can see he's got a tropical background here today, but he's actually from Holland originally. And we also have EPC cum investor players, Deepak from SunSource from India, who have been, and Deepak has been involved in the Philippine market, solar market for several years now. So I think it'd be a very interesting panel. I would start to launch a discussion with a question perhaps to Chini of NG on what are in your view the policy and initiative and scheme from the government driving the rooftop sector ahead in the Philippines, and what's working, what's not working, and how do you see things could be improved?
Sure. Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon, everyone, and to my fellow panelists. It's an absolute pleasure to be here on behalf of NG Philippines. So if you don't mind, Frank, I'll take that question from the perspective of a developer, given that that is how NG approaches the rooftop solar market. So I think really the main gap here is that the regulation in the Philippines is not yet catered for the distributed energy generation market. And one of the key ways that we see this is that when we approach the DOE or the ERC for the permitting requirements for these long-term financed solar rooftop installations, there are really only two buckets that a developer can fall into, which would be an IPP, or which is an independent power producer, as most of you know, and an SGF, which is the self-generating facility. And in either bucket, rooftop doesn't exactly neatly fall into one category or another. If we look at the IPP, there are a very long list of requirements which we, of course, would apply for a solar utility or a solar farm scale. But if we're looking at something that's really only maybe 500 kilowatts to 1 megawatt, could be quite a long list and may be difficult for a developer to go through for a project of this scale. And then on the other hand, you have a self-generating facility or an SGF, wherein the current definition really states that the SGF should be under the name of the end user, which of course, if you are a developer or a financer or somebody who is trying to alleviate that burden of the initial upfront cost for a solar rooftop end user, it's quite difficult to marry that you would have your asset which you would own for a longer period of time under the name of the end user. So I think if we are able to simplify the permitting process and also have something that's more consistent and unified between the ERC, the DOE, and the other support regulatory bodies, then we would be able to see a lot of quicker growth in the sector. But I think it has been very positive in the past couple of years. We've seen a lot of growth in the solar rooftop market, and as you can see, that we have a very good representation of players here. So I think there is a lot of good potential in the market as well.
Anyone wants to add something in the panel on what the description of Shini of the current situation? Sandro.
Yeah, I think that one of the most important limit for the growth is as Chini mentioned already, is the net metering threshold. Because most of us know, also in the audience, I think, we are not allowed to export the excess of energy after 100 kilowatt capacity. That triggers multiple issues. First of all, we need to install additional devices in order to inhibit this export. Second, the overall capacity installed is significantly reduced because with a large roof, for example, we could install more power and deal directly with the owner of the local franchise, export the energy. But this is not allowed, again, above 100 kilowatt. And therefore, the actual capacity that the developer or any end user can install in the system must be very accurately sized and precisely on their own load. I give you a very simple example, right? If you have a facilities and you are not operating on Saturday and Sunday, this really is a very difficult to install a system and have it efficiently running, both in technical terms and in commercial terms. Because Saturday and Sunday is basically if the operation drops from 100 to 0, just to give you an example, we will have 100% curtailment. We call curtailment all the energy that basically should have been produced, but it is actually inhibited by the devices. In my opinion, and Chini mentioned it very well, the difference between the two categories, IPP and SGF in the Philippines. My opinion, the net metering is the most, how can I say, annoying limit to the expansion of this market, and I think all my colleagues agree on this statement.
One of the panelists yesterday at the conference did mention that rooftop in Philippines require sometimes up to 200 permits. Is this an accurate statement, or was this investor very unlucky where he was developing that project?
Okay, as Chini answered already this question, but it's to be more explicit. When you apply for an IPP COC, and IPP stands for Independent Power Producer, and the COC is the Certificate of Compliance of the system, which is mandatory in this market, it requires a significant amount of, I don't know if it's 200, it might be even more than that, I'm not sure, but it's a very costly, time-consuming process. That's where we're coming from, right? We are all finding a good solution for the rooftop segment to make it work as a self-generating facility. The self-generating facility process is much easier, much faster, and obviously you need to have the end user as the formal owner of the asset. So you can have multiple options for an investor to agree with the end user that ultimately is formally the owner of the asset to deal with him and understand what is the best financial model in order also to be compliant with local regulation.
I see. No, it's very similar to our sector in rooftop is a kind of a new sector, and it's very often in multiple markets where we operate that we are ahead of the regulation. Basically, this is a new business model, and we are ahead of the regulation, and basically the regulator is kind of catching up. So always, right? And so it's whether it's in Thailand or India or Philippines, I suppose you are making the rules as you go by, and then the rules come up, and the regulator maybe 1 or 2 years later will come up with some reasonable regulation. But during a 2 to 3 year period, you're kind of in a gray area. And that's very often the case in every market in the rooftop solar sector for a few years. So Philippines is no exception there, I understand. So thanks, Sandro, for your explanation. And Chini, any other comments from our panelists on this?
Yeah, could I add something to the net metering? Also, in terms of the perspective of the consumer, it's also very important because in Germany, for example, when you have when you acquire a system, whether you're a residential, whether it's a residential system or a commercial system, the exported energy, you actually get paid for the exported energy versus just credited against your bill. That actually encourages a lot of small business owners, SMEs, and residential owners to maximize their system size, to actually make a little bit of pocket change, or even make a lucrative business model out of deploying solar on their residential home or on their business. And I think that is something that could definitely accelerate the growth of solar, of rooftop solar in general or in principle. Given that we have so much roof space available in the Philippines, that model would definitely encourage significant growth in that space.
Thank you, James. Absolutely. Deepak, anything
Frank,
you want to add? I see you're moving, and I'm sure you have some ideas to share and some experience to share on this.
No, I think what Chini and James and Brando, they have added, these are genuinely bigger concerns that all of the developers we are facing. First thing, of course, the two buckets of self-generating system and IPP, we don't really fall anywhere in between them, right? If we have to go for self-generating facility, and I think I asked this question to Sandro in one of our earlier webinar, an interesting issue that we are facing is one of the client's lawyer says that if you have to file COC to ERC through the SGF, under the self-generating facility system, still you need to get that thing from DOE. DOE need to endorse it. Now, DOE, if DOE has to endorse it, DOE takes its cue from the Constitution, which says that only a company which is majority owned by a Filipino or at least 60% owned by a Filipino can actually exploit the resources. Now, that is written in the Constitution. Interpretation of that is completely wrong when it is applied to solar, but that's how it is done. So now our client is also a 100% foreign-owned company. We are also not a domestic company. So we are in a position that we cannot even file for COC according to the client's lawyers. And it's not just client lawyers. There are other lawyers also who would actually, interpret the Constitution and what is written in the APIRA Act and what is written in the Renewable Energy Act. They took all these things together and they say only if you have a DOE endorsement, which can be given only to a 60-40 company, then you can apply for a COC to ERC. Now, there was a guideline in 2019 from the government, omnibus guidelines, which talks about also COR, some certificate of registration for smaller projects or rooftop projects. But then again, it does not really dispel the issues around the Constitution, So there are so many gray areas. There would be lawyers who would say, okay, 100% foreign-owned company cannot apply for COC, which means if you are a Fortune 500 company, not a domestic company, you have a requirement of 15 megawatt, you cannot even do a solar project on EPC basis. That's what these lawyers are saying. So there's a lot of gray area in the legal or the policy matters in Philippines, which needs to be addressed.
Yeah, look, I think I used to be working in the company. We had 2,000 megawatt in Philippines on the conventional side 20 years ago, and it's a great market, and we got paid by the regulator, by the authorities. Absolutely great business, and we are owned 100% foreign, right? We are 100% foreign owned, and it created a lot of investment in Philippines in the IPP sector. It's unfortunate that the current situation here on solar prevents the full ability of foreign investors to invest in these solar panels and solarize all these roofs. It's really, I think, a legacy of not even the past. I think it's really something that needs to be tackled and removed because that is really clearly not in the best interest of the end consumer in the Philippines and
Correct.
on, and
there's
on
so
the
many large
and on the
companies,
efficient
yeah.
competition. So clearly has to be removed. Hopefully we won't have to wait too long for that to happen. But that's also one reason we did not invest yet. At my company, we have not invested in Philippines in solar business for that reason. We've been looking at the market for 7 years, and we still wait until this constitutional
Like
amendment
your
takes
companies,
place.
there are many other companies who are still thinking like that.
Yeah.
Of course, there are ways around. You can go through rent-to-own or lease models, which Chini and Centro, these guys have experience of. But this particular example, which I just gave you, this even kind of stops us from doing that under these arrangements, because if a lawyer says that it has to be 60-40, even for the one who is owning the asset and that's being the client here, everything becomes very difficult, and then you're only left with a very small or regional players. You cannot really go and sign contracts with large Fortune 500 companies in the Philippines. So that's kind of stopping the rooftop segment in the country.
So despite these challenges, and I think we're all here to make money and also save the world at the same time, and there's urgency at the moment, as we all know. Despite these challenges, how many megawatt has been able to be built in solar rooftop in Philippines in the last few years, and maybe this year? And what's your view on next year? We talk generally megawatts. It's a unit everybody understands. Thailand is probably about 300-400 megawatt a year of rooftop for the last few years. Malaysia is probably about 50 megawatt a year. What is the current situation in the Philippines there? Who would like to take that question?
In my belief, I think it is under 100 megawatt in Philippines currently in the rooftop segment. But I think Sandro and Chini can maybe throw more light on that.
Okay, is this Deepa, is this capex and PPA, or is this a whole together?
I think it's capex and PPA. I think it's PPA.
Chini, you want to do it? It would be interesting to know because the numbers are not public, right, and are not clear to anyone. But it would be very interesting also for us to understand what is the estimation of the market size and per segment. Also from Chini, James, Mike, and myself, I think we can give all our answer, short answer, if possible.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that is the $1 million question, because it's very difficult to estimate in the Philippines because, and I think it goes kind of hand in hand with the question that you asked earlier, because it is very difficult to get through the regulatory requirements. There are quite a few solar installations that actually have flown under the radar, or I would say aren't really visible from a regulatory perspective. And so when we try to size the market, we also recognize that there are a lot of small players. There are a lot of these local solar companies that have put up 100 kilowatts, 500 kilowatts here and there, especially in provincial areas, which we, I think, don't have that much visibility on.
I see. Any other?
Yeah, maybe just a minute. I will give you my view. Of course, we should differentiate the PPA segment. Let's call it PPAs, meaning a system built with the help of investor or outright purchase. But it's not possible to understand how many. You can just have a good guess, but say in the DOE side, you can find reported only those under a proper PPA. So if you go to the DOE site, you find 10 megawatt, you say, what's going on in this market? There's nothing, right? In reality, there is I believe that the actual real size of this market, it should be around 50 megawatt per year, in my opinion. This is including outright purchase and lease, maybe 50, 60, something like that. Specifically for the segment under PPA, the actual true, real, executable and bankable project should be around 30 megawatt this year, maybe. And last comment I have is that developers, there are many young developers signing actual contracts that many of them actually they will never be executed. Maybe they sign contracts with a very poor terms. They go to the bank, that contract is not bankable, the project is not executable, the tariff is super low. And I've seen also Chini, I believe, as many as visibility on this. We've been seeing a lot of this. So well, what is signed is probably almost double of what actually is executable. But I would say conservatively maybe 50. But I would be very interested to know James' opinion, because James also work on small commercial and residential, and he has a wide range of activities.
Yeah, thanks. So I think our company commissioned about 5 megawatts this year, consisting of maybe 30 different projects, or 20, maybe 20 different projects. We are currently installing or undergoing construction is about 6 megawatts, which we intend to complete next year. And we have additional awarded projects of around 8 or 9 megawatts, which we also hopefully can complete next year, depending on the permitting aspect. As you know, that can sometimes delay a project by a year or 6 months or more. So I think from our side, that's sort of what we achieved. And typically, in the past, we've always achieved based on our research. And again, this is very. It was always in, like, you could never really tell for sure. The way we've always conducted our research is we checked websites of competitors. We looked at basically the DOE website as well, and sort of just gathered all the information and see what we could do. But in the past, our market share was somewhere between 5 to 15% of what was installed. But then some days, some years it was like 20. So I think it would be, I would have to agree with you. I think my estimate on the total capacity installed would be somewhere maybe around 30 to 40 megawatts, 20 to 40 megawatts a year, average over the last few years. I'm not sure though about 2020. I think 2020 might have been worse. It definitely was for us. COVID definitely delayed a lot of our projects, but things are starting to normalize now. So yeah, I think apart from 2020, I think the average probably around 20 to 40 megawatts a year.
Interesting. Mike, anything you would like to add on this?
Hi, Frank. Sure, thank you for allowing me to also contribute. From our side, same as James, actually, we've really felt the impact of the COVID pandemic in the last 2 years. So say 2020, 2021, we're doing about 5 to 6 megawatt per year. And for 2022, though, we're expecting at least to do 10 to 15. So we've been seeing a lot of projects that have been in the pipeline since, say, 2018, 2019, that were supposed to start in 2020, but were clearly delayed because of the situation. And we're expecting those really to proceed in 2022, 2023. So that's what we're seeing. In terms of total, I think it's somewhere between what James is saying and what Sandro is saying, between 40 to 60.
Okay, so compared to the GDP of Philippines, which is not too far from Thailand, it's a very small number still. So we talked about the challenge. What the question now is, why is this still small, right? So one is that the permitting challenge we talked about, and the kind of issue you have on the legal side, the gray area there. What about another factor of penetration of rooftop is often on direct PPA to clients is what discount can be offered to clients, right? Is a discount that can economically be offered is low. Let's say if it's less than 10%, typically, or if the payback takes more than 5 or 6 years for own use, you probably don't see a lot of take up. Where is the Philippines at the moment? I mean, the panel price is the same everywhere in the world and outside of tariffs. I don't think Philippines has any tariff on specifically, so it's an open market for supply of equipment. There are certain restrictions on hurricane and all that, so we have to build a bit stronger than other countries like Thailand. But where do we stand in terms of discount and savings for users, or retail users, especially in the C&I world, C&I clients that can be achieved under the current conditions?
If I may continue, Frank, just a quick contribution from my side in terms of offering PPA rates that we as Solar Energy don't do directly. But again, like I said before, we actually work with several developers that we offer PPA rates with. The challenge, again, referring back to what Sandra contributed earlier, the fact that there's curtailment, which means that, for example, Saturdays, Sundays, we cannot produce power with the solar system. This severely impacts the rate that we together with our developers are able to offer to our clients. And honestly, I feel that in a lot of cases, because of this curtailment, this is exactly the difference between not being competitive and being competitive with the RES rates. At the year one, or say at the current moment, of course, when you offer a PPA scheme, we try to always look at it over a 20-year scheme because we're expecting rates, RES rates or rates from electricity companies to go up over the years. So that's how we like to present, the case over 20-year period to show, hey, maybe today you're only saving about 5% or 10% if you're lucky, but say in year 15 onwards, your percentage of savings is going to be a lot higher. So I guess that's from my side. I guess the other guys can contribute to what I said.
So Frank, if I may add, so with a couple of clients that we've already signed agreements, of course, as Mike just mentioned, it depends a lot on the current RES rates, and RES rates vary a lot depending upon the location and what sort of RES it is and what is the source of supply. So like anywhere else, it has generally varied from say 8 to 10% the starting point, and can go up to 15-60% also, depending upon the location and RES rates. But that's the range of discount that's generally being offered in this market.
Yeah, if I may add something, if we are talking about additional barriers we have, there is a natural barrier. At the moment, I think the generation tariff in the Philippines is at the lowest possible point since 20 years. I had the possibility to look at the graph, and the generation rate for at least for bulk consumers, right? So let's say contestable customers with a high volume of consumption, and now we are, I think, around 3.4 pesos, 3.3 pesos for the generation rate. And if you have to compute correctly the savings, of course, transmission and distribution costs are often fixed costs. That means installing a solar won't have a real impact on those costs. And therefore, the savings that you can actually generate installing a solar are not that attractive in many cases. This is an additional issue we have here.
Thank you, Sandro. Anyone else would like to add on this?
I think one of the other things that we've seen in the market is that for some of the clients, there's an additional cost also that's brought in by the need to retrofit their buildings. So if you take that into account, of course, when they want to invest in solar, they expect it to be that you'd come in and everything would be solar ready. So in addition with what everyone else has mentioned, if you add in that additional CapEx requirement for retrofitting for some of the buildings which are either older or not really designed to withstand the additional weight from solar, that's where it becomes a bit trickier to provide them with a very competitive rate.
Understood. Thank you, Chini. So we really see that there is when you look at the Philippines versus the other markets in Southeast Asia, you see very different case, right? So you have the extreme, which is probably Vietnam on rooftop solar. Vietnam who put in over 10,000 megawatts of rooftop solar in 1 year. So this way of finance, I mean, the money came from somewhere to put these panels in the ground. We know and why? Because you have in rooftop solar in Vietnam, you only need, I think you don't even need one permit. So it's probably at the end of the spectrum with Philippines, I think. So Vietnam, 0 permit to set up a rooftop solar. Legally, actually, there is 0 permit. You do need to get EVN to come and check, but it's actually not a clear permit. And it's once you have built the project. The other, we also the feed-in tariff, generous US dollar feed-in tariff, no limitation for foreign ownership. So that's been, that's been the most active market in rooftop solar in the last 18 months. Whether it's success, it's a boom. So like every boom, there are some probably non-rational decisions and projects that went too quickly or where due diligence was not done quick enough, like any boom situation. Then you got maybe Thailand in the middle with about 400 or 500 megawatt a year. The market has been developing for the last 4 years, where you need a couple of permits, maybe 2-3 permits that you get over 6 months to do rooftop solar. And then I think you have Philippines and Malaysia, which in terms of volume, I would put in the same space, talking about 50 megawatt a year. I think the main challenge I think our panelists explain them clearly in Philippines what they are. Malaysia has some challenge in terms of cost of electricity and subsidies to industries, for example, as well as many regulatory change in the last 2 years, besides political change. And then probably the last one is Indonesia, where there's no feed-in tariff. Regulation are quite adverse to rooftop solar, and a very strong incumbent utility with preventing rooftop solar basically on Java, Bali. So that's kind of the list and the ranking in terms of deployment of rooftop solar. So Philippines, even so, for our audience, it may have sounded quite negative in terms of the challenges. It's actually not the worst in class in Southeast Asia, but certainly there's a lot of improvement, and I think our panelists were very helpful in clarifying where some of these challenges are and what are the areas that needs to be tweaked to enable actually probably a very fast growth, right? I think there's no question, and I will come to my panelists again, but there's no question, there's no reason why Philippines should not be able to reach 200, 300, 500 megawatt a year of rooftop solar deployment in a sustainable manner, given the size of the economy, given the size of the industrial and commercial space in Philippines, and given the equivalent power price in the market for retailers.
Yeah, if I may add, I think the regulatory process could actually fix that issue almost single-handedly. I think just a better, clearer, and faster regulatory process. And I know that it's being worked on at the moment. I don't think it's there quite yet, but I think they are working on a process where if certain permits are being applied for, and it's not going to be, if there's no response within X amount of days, it'll just be deemed approved. And I think that would be a system that could help speed this process up a lot. Because I think one of the other issues is that sometimes net metering applications can go, somewhere between 6 months to 8 months or 9 months or 12 months, depending where you are and where you apply. Some distribution utilities, they have never heard of net metering before, even though it's been in the law for I don't know how many years. A lot of the regulatory aspects generally take a very long time. For example, the green energy option has only been taken into effect recently, where the Renewable Energy Act was written in 2008. So it's been 13, 14 years since then, and it took them 10 years or 11, 12 years to enforce the green energy option, which I think is also another area of growth. So I think we're headed in the right direction, and I think there's no doubt that we will get to that point where we can deploy 100, 200, 300 megawatts a year. I think we're really on the let's say the last quarter of that 10-year gap. So maybe in a year or two or three, it might be realistic.
Thank you, James. For those in the audience who would like to support, I think we have some Q&A around try to move regulation faster. Is there a body or like an association of rooftop solar supporters, or like an industry body where advocacy can take place, where bringing together, like we see in other countries, large consumer who want to make savings and want to go green faster, and developer and contractors involved in the solar rooftop solar value chain. Is this something that exists in the Philippines? Do you have like a rooftop solar association pushing this advocacy with the government?
I personally have never heard about an association dedicated to CNI market, but I know there are associations that root for solar, and they got also public hearings over the years, and but I have the impression, but I ask also my colleagues that they are good obtaining hearings and discussing and drafting, but then actually nothing happens. But this is my opinion. I can't say for sure if there are stronger association most effective compared to others.
Yeah, in other countries, like in Thailand, for example, we know there is a solar club, and that gets these people together, even consumer, and that is existing for 5-6 years, both utility scale and rooftop solar scale, and that has gotten heard by the regulator and propose some regulation or draft some suggestion for regulation. Obviously, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 will be taken on board, but at least through the effort, it becomes a valuable partner for the regulators. They kind of listen to them, or before they do a regulation, they actually ask them their advice or their opinion. Similarly, in Vietnam, some of the development banks and some of the multilateral agencies have been quite active in proposing regulation to the Vietnamese government. We have an example recently with the DPPA regulation, which has been supported by USAID from the US. And basically they got, so USAID, which is this corporation from the US government entity, has also aligned with the main manufacturer, the American manufacturer in Vietnam, including the Nike, the New Balance, Adidas, Samsung, who want to greenify their power supply chain. And yes, they obtained some results already, and they are being heard clearly. Now it's still a few months away before they actually get a new program set up in line with what they have proposed. But basically, they made quite a lot of progress in the last 3 years. It's long, it's painful, it's slow. You're dealing with bureaucracy, but over the years, if you don't start, it takes already 2 to 3 years to get results on this type of advocacies. But it has to start somewhere, right? And we can see in Thailand, Vietnam, results obtained after a 3-4 year period.
So I am aware of a Philippine Solar and Storage Energy Alliance that I think some of the developers and CNI players are a part of. And at least maybe pre-pandemic, there were some efforts to participate in the public hearings of some of the regulatory drafts that my fellow panelists have already alluded to. They did try to get started a distributed energy generation specific regulatory framework and there were some public consultations around that. But I think much more can be done for the industry to come together and to consolidate and to really push forward, because I think, as was made quite clear in today's panel, we have very similar views as to what the bottlenecks and the challenges are. And I think we would have very similar recommendations as well on how to be able to push the market forward.
Yes, and I think being at NG, you have a lot of regulatory advocacy experience, and same with Sandro at Total. This thing, you have the benefit of being in big companies who know how to do advocacy and talk to government. So I think you can definitely play a role there.
Yeah, just a practical comment is that also all of us are usually very busy with the daily job, and it's really, not to mention that during this pandemic, it's really difficult to aggregate, talk about the topic, and express your ideas and formally propose something to the local bodies. To me, it would require a huge effort, right? Because also dealing with the local authorities is not that easy. I mean, so I hope anyway that next year there will be a new administration. I have to say that the current administration has not been really supportive, or not it. Let's say they did not root against solar, but also I did not see any particular effort to develop. Besides the green option James mentioned, but they're actually, or the renewable portfolio standard that probably you've been talking about in a utility scale project session. But the implementation of this new regulation, or this new, it's difficult, and it is again difficult for us, due also for restriction for COVID and our limited time to dedicate to this, to support an association and make our voice hear to the local bodies. It's complicated.
Thank you, Sandro. I'm just looking as a Q&A. One of the questions we have from the audience is around the standards of installation which is a topic for solar rooftop, because we're talking about buildings that are potentially with people under those buildings, hosting people, hosting public sometimes. So the standard of installation are very important in terms of the building structure analysis before installation, in terms also of the special situation of Philippines with high wind situation. Is there been, and that will be obviously a key concern, we talk about financiers, that will be a key concern on financier before they invest in those projects. Banks will want to ensure the projects they invest into are well designed and can withstand 50-year or 100-year winds. What is and I maybe turn to our friends on the EPC side, James and Mike here, which I'm sure are building some of the best solar rooftop quality plants in the market in the Philippines. But is there a standard already established for solar rooftop quality in the Philippines, or is this in progress? And what do you see in the market being built?
Do you want to go first, Mike?
And perhaps also to Deepak, who is also obviously an EPC activity in his business.
Sure. Thanks, James. Thanks, Frank, also. There are some guidelines, or let's say guidelines or regulations through the Philippine Electricity, the PEC of 2019, I believe, and there are parts there that refer to solar, and one of them being AFCI and the other one specifically being RSD. So this is something that is supposedly mandated in order to comply with the PEC. We do this, especially for let's say for all, right? But especially for the commercial installations. Referring to the Q&A in there is some companies that don't comply with these. I guess that was also the question you were referring to. I mean, the best thing or the best way that we can work with this from our side is to educate the client as much as possible. And in the end, it's the client's choice to either pay a little bit premium but get something that fully complies with the regulations and that is made to last for 20, 25 years at least, especially if it's finance, and then also complies with the structural integrity reasoning, of course. So again, the best thing that we can do is educate our clients and try to participate in as much project as we can, and try to always explain to the client, hey, we know you have multiple proposals that you're looking at. We understand this. Please try to compare apple to apple. Kindly look at these kind of things and make sure that everybody complies with the same regulation. So it's an apple to apple comparison whenever you provide a EPC price or PPA rate.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I agree, and I kind of knew you were going to say that, Mike. The module level rapid shutdown is actually a big issue. I think that's currently that a lot of I'm guessing a lot of companies are not complying with. We can't afford not to comply with it, but there are, I guess, sometimes, or I guess the unawareness sometimes leads to create some issues in when it comes to bids. So sometimes in solar bids, we bid for a project whether it's an outright purchase project or a PPA, but a module level rapid shutdown can increase the project cost by as much as 10%. And in terms of pricing, solar is very price sensitive, and 10% makes a huge difference for the end customer. And if you have a company that complies with the rapid shutdown requirement and another bidder who thinks it's just a design plug and play, and uses inverters or basically just doesn't comply with it, of course they will get a lower rate. But the real issue there is, are they really compliant with the rapid shutdown? A lot of our customers will not know the difference. And as Mike said, we can try as much as possible to educate them, but if it's not being taken seriously enough, then that could cause serious issues with these kinds of bids and with the safety, of course, of the system.
I believe Frank took a break, so Deepak, I think he wanted you to take
Yeah, I
over.
think Frank has taken a break. Yeah, so I think we've talked about standards. Maybe what we can do now is let's try and understand about the financing, which is the last sort of issue that we need to discuss here. So, Chini, maybe I can start with you. What has been the experience of NG in terms of getting the PPAs finance in the country, and maybe then Sandro can also help add on to that.
Sure. Well, I think in terms of, let me take it from the client side first. I think, of course, what the clients would be interested in would be partnering for the most part with developers who are able to finance the solar rooftop installations with no upfront requirement. So, of course, these would be your PPA and lease models that would alleviate the entire hurdle of solar to begin with, of it being a high capex item. So developers such as NG, Total, I know some of the others here also have PPA and lease models, extend this kind of financing to the clients. And I think for now, given that it's still a bit incipient, we're not looking at financing yet at the corporate level. I think a lot of, and this is also, I think, one of the things that could help to accelerate development in the market, is that right now the ones that you're seeing undertaking these PPA and lease projects are those who have the equity to be able to fund these large installations. Because otherwise, if you are a smaller player, the financing requirements and would be, I think, a bit onerous for some of these smaller market players. So it is up to the larger companies that have the balance sheet in order to be able to support these kinds of projects that are taking on these kinds of contracts. And as Sandra and Mike have alluded to, there are partnerships between EPCs and developers in order to be able to actually make this happen and to deliver these installations. So in terms of financing, I would say it's still there's still a way for it to go. I There hasn't been much support yet in terms of the local banking industry. I think it's still a new market also for them, and to date, I haven't yet been able to see, I think, a very big take up in terms of bank financing in this regard.
Okay, and Sandro, what is your view?
Both myself and Chini work for. We have the privilege to work for big corporation that actually can afford to finance the project with 100% equity and refinance the whole portfolio, later on in the year. That's what we are doing, not only in the Philippines but in the whole region. I would say that for young developer is looking for funds here. Even young developers, I'm not talking about the end users, is not that easy. Definitely, my suggestion is not to go with project finance. Is probably the banks here require a long time to get it done, and I think that the expertise here amongst the financial institutes are not that present, and it's very costly and is not competitive tool. So I know that young, a smaller developer than Total Energy that have limited equity, they go for the call we call it a omnibus loan, right? So we go for corporate finance basically. So they have a business plan, they have some numbers to show, and they get funds, not specific tailed to a specific project, but aiming to build their pipeline. And I know this is possible, even if it's a long process. And for the end user, I believe they have options to use their own equity. Of course, they have option to go with a developer, and when end user opts for the outright purchase, I think I'm not sure. Mike and James, maybe they might encounter end user that want to actually not build a project with a developer, but maybe they have limited cash, and they discuss with the EPC directly how to have a better payment terms. And I think Mike and both James, they have been discussing with customers. It's interesting to understand their point of view when the end user opts for an outright purchase.
Mike and James, do you guys want to go ahead?
Yeah,
And
sure.
later, I would also like to add our experience on financing.
Yeah, so I mean, from our side, so we're one of those young developers. Basically, started as an EPC back in the time where nobody wanted solar, when it was a time where nobody trusted solar, considering it. They thought it's a new technology. But then we eventually switched to becoming sort of a hybrid, a developer and an EPC. Today, the developer business or development business definitely is bigger than the EPC side. But for us, raising capital, maybe I'll speak first about the development side. The raising capital was very challenging. So it wasn't. We started off with very little equity, and we tried basically working with banks, expecting it to be easy because it's a very simplistic model, where you have, with the high power rates in the Philippines, we had customers basically being able to achieve a 4-year, 5-year payback on a system that will last you 20, 30 years. And so we thought it should be easy enough to sell it, and the banks should jump on this, being able to have the asset. And I know for us it looked very good, but reality was that we spoke with 6-7 different banks, and over the past 10 years, we've raised one loan, which makes up maybe 10 or 8% of our actual debt. So all of our fundraising efforts came from private equity, and it's a mix of debt and equity. But yeah, the fundraising part was definitely, it was very difficult to work with banks here. It's a very old mindset. Where's the collateral? We don't, most don't even accept a chattel mortgage. They look for, land or other buildings, or basically something that they're accustomed to. And so it was quite tricky as a young developer. um, and it's still the case. So even if we have customers, that want to buy the system, we thought we could just introduce them to a bank. But you know, I think nobody wants to sort of go through that experience. Talking to a bank for a year and then basically nothing happening. And so we changed. That's why this actually the main reason why we changed our model to become some sort of a developer, is to be able to make the access to solar easier for the end user. So our business model is basically, whether it's an outright purchase, or if the customer needs financing, we can do both. We will either, whether it's a lease, whether it's a PPA, whether it's an outright purchase, or whether the customer just wants to pay 30% and the remaining balance paid over 5 years or 7 years, we will do all of these models. Because if the bank's not going to be offered that, somebody has to. And I think that's also one of the main reasons why the panel that's really here, we all basically practice that business model, because somebody has to, and the banks aren't doing it, and somebody has to
Right.
take the initiative to make solar even accessible. And I think,
Right.
yeah.
And Mike, from your side, any experience?
Yeah, of course. Actually, Buskovich and us, we go way back. We met 6 years ago, I believe, to just see how we both stand in the market back then. And honestly, whatever James just said, we went through the same exact thing, except for the part where they chose to actually become a developer themselves. That's where we took a left on that intersection, and we went to find partnerships. So we got several partnerships for short-term financing, all private also, short-term financing, or we work with developers in order to, yeah, let's call it raise funds or to finance the projects. But yeah, from a company perspective, us starting in the Philippines, I think it was extremely important that we got a local partner who was already successful in the Philippines, who already had bank track record, plus, like James said, land, buildings, etc. So that gave us a way to leverage and actually build a company from, that's just started in the Philippines, that had zero bank support for at least the first 3-4 years, and then slowly started. I think the bank support really only started in 2019, right before the pandemic. So yeah, same exact experience
Great.
with James, and yeah, from a project financing perspective, again, we chose to work with developers instead of doing it ourselves, because, like Sandro said, it is just extremely difficult.
Yeah, and to share the experience of SunSource, when we started some 10, 11 years ago, we started obviously as a startup, very small EPC company. So we never had the privilege of, being a PPA, I mean, being a developer offering PPA. And though we became a PPA developer, investing in the projects 5-6 years after that, but then also we never had the privilege to build projects on the equity like Total and NG had. But what we've done is we've taken a little different route, and I would say a little positive route. We also realize getting project financing from local banks in these countries will not be possible. So what we have done is we've basically gone out to other lenders, impact investors, or other lenders who could provide us bridge or construction loan to take care of projects from development stage till 1 to 2 year of operation stage, and then basically going out to these banks to raise finance. In Philippines also, we've been able to actually raise a few term sheets from the local banks now, of course on the backdrop of getting first the construction license from the foreign impact investors, and getting the projects done, building them, and of course showing the pipeline in future. So have been able to reach there, and maybe in a couple of years, of course, we will be able to raise pure project financing for our projects. Yeah. Okay, so Priyanshi is back, so I believe it's time for Q&A.
Yes, yes. So I'll be displaying the questions on the screen, and you people can answer on the same. So I'll start with the
Sure.
first question from my audience. You can please scroll down to see the whole question.
So, do you think that in future the market will be more inclined towards EPC because of various regulatory challenges? So, I think James and Mike, do you guys think that this is going to happen in Philippines, considering a lot of issues developers are facing from the investment point of view and other issues?
Mike, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute still. Actually, we have seen two cases that we experienced ourselves where the regulatory process for financing the project was so delayed that the client eventually said, you know what, we've already decided to go into solar. Like we already shook hands with the technology. We'll just buy it. It takes too long with the financing procedure, so we decided to just buy the system outright. So we already experienced these cases. And honestly, the fact, like James said earlier, before say 6 7 years ago, it was very hard to uh, sell solar because we were still educating the client about awareness, like what is solar all about. And honestly, these days everybody knows solar. They don't question anymore whether or not the technology works. We already passed that point, and now it's only about price and whether we not finance it or not. So the fact that we already passed that people already trust the technology is in my opinion, a considerable shift towards companies considering buying it outright. So my answer would be yes.
Yeah, in fact, I would like to add on that in Indian market, what we have seen recently, there is definitely a change in the mindset of customers or clients, those who are big, those who already have equity. They do understand now there's a lot of awareness about solar. They understand the technology. So instead of opting for PPA model wherein we invest and sell power to them, they are actually going ahead with the EPC model
Yeah.
because they understand the technology, there is awareness, and they have money to put in. So yeah, a little shift towards EPC model is something which is going to happen in these markets.
Yeah, I
Frank
agree.
is here, so Frank, over to you
Yes.
now.
Thank you, Deepak, for taking over for me. I had to exit for a few minutes.
No
Thank you,
worries.
sir. I think we covered most of the Q&A here. I think we had a few questions here. If the audience would like to add some question, please do so in the next few minutes in the Q&A before the end of the session.
Frank,
And
I'm not sure if James still wanted to add something to the last point that Deepak
mm,
actually gave him.
please,
Yes,
James.
James, please go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, no, I was just going to agree. I think the reason why we started becoming a developer was because of the uh, the I guess the a lot of the customers basically just didn't trust the technology yet and didn't trust the companies because there were very few. Also, a lot of companies that weren't aware of solar never had, yeah, and then a lot of, and from a corporate standpoint, you always have, you have to request for capex, you have capex budgets, and you have to request those, and that takes some planning. But I think we are at the point where the shift is starting to happen, and I think further down the line it is going to happen eventually anyway. The residential market, I think, is going to be a very big market in the future. Right now, it's still being dominated. The total installed capacity is still being dominated by the commercial industrial market in the rooftop space. But I think in 3-4 years down the line, the residential space will and can make a serious impact on that number. Um, and I think overall the EPC model is always a smarter model. I mean, basically for developers, we're basically doing it's like we're the end customer. We're doing the EPC. We're building it, or we're having it built, and we're selling the power at a discount. Whereas the end customer, they don't have to sell it at a discount. They're basically selling the power at grid rates. That's basically their selling rate, where it's really the amount of, or the power saved. So I think from a standpoint of the consumer, the EPC model is always the most lucrative model. But I do think that currently, whether it's a PPA or a lease, it sort of gives you an introduction to solar. Lets you trust the company and the technology before a lot of them decide to really go all out or um, expand in the future.
So, if I might just add to the point of James, I do think that the residential market is really going to grow in the next few years, and it's really been precipitated as well by the whole pandemic. And kind of tying in some of the other ideas that were raised earlier, um, with net metering being an issue in terms of the payback now, where people are working from home, and I think that it's going to be a hybrid kind of model in terms of not being in the office 100% going forward. This is going to shift the load to the home rather than in the office, and make it really a more viable solution at the residential level. However, I do think that there will always be a market for the PPA and lease model. There are also a lot of companies that are very concerned about cash flow, and regardless if they have the equity or not, would also like to be able to preserve this for their core business. So I think there will always be a space and an opportunity for those who are willing to go through that whole regulatory process that accompanies it.
Great. Thank you, Chini. I think we come to the end of our sessions. I would like to thank all the panelists for their contribution and with this good overview of the developing rooftop solar market in Philippines, where I think it was clearly identified the drivers and some of the obstacles. I think that our panelists did a very good job in highlighting that to the audience. I would like to thank them again, and I'll turn over to Priyanshi for the next session.
Thank you so much, everyone, and special thanks to Frank sir and Deepak sir for managing it so well. You gracefully combined the various interests of the audience and related those interests to the panel of experts flawlessly. Your moderation of the panel was brilliant, and I'm sure the audience really enjoyed listening to you. And I'm sure if this would have been a physical event, we would have got a standing ovation for the same. So, a round of applause to all of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank you,
so much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you. Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So, welcome back, attendees. It's time for our second session. I hope everyone is very keen to enter the second session with me. Now, we are having a sponsor presentation by Mr. Udit Kumar from the Solar Labs. Over to you, sir. You can start with your presentation.
Thank you, Priyanshi, for giving me this opportunity to speak in Philippine Solar Week. And I'm just sharing my screen. It would be like the agenda of the presentation would be like I would be sharing a presentation, and then I would be designing a site, a quick design of the site, and then I'll just discuss the report that we generate. And it would be just done in just the time slot that is provided to me. So we would be just completing within that slot time itself.
Okay, that's
So
great.
once my screen is visible, just let me know.
Sure, sir, sure. Yes, you can go ahead.
So the Solar Labs, we started this company in 2017, and we launched our product, the Solar Labs, as a PV design and simulation software in 2019. For 2 years of time, we did a rigorous market research with the EPC players in the market and the end customers. So we took the concern of both the segments and then developed the software so as to meet their needs. So what our customer has to say, like it took one of the customers from Amplus Solars. They are our clients from last 2 years of time, and they say like it just took them around 3 hours to learn the designing part, and in 20 minutes of time they can design any sites. So basically it saves their time in designing the site for the pre-sale solutions. Once the site survey is done, then they can just change the parameters, and then they can find the exact simulation report and the energy simulation report. So we have around 450 plus licenses across the globe, and uh, like in Philippines, I would like to say like Panasonic Solar is also our one of our client in Philippines, and we provide a comprehensive design. We provide clearer site image, satellite image, and we you can there's a you can vary the mount height, and the you can place the panels on the mumty. As you can see on the pictures over here, it's a site which has been designed, and it just took around for a complicated site, it just takes around 45 minutes of time. We are coming up with new features in next 1 year of time. We have our project roadmap, so there would be new features that would be lined up. So that would optimize the design solution, and it would be done in just a few minutes of time. Like we will be reducing the time of designing to 10 minutes only. So you can place the uh, um, on the shed roof, you can place it the panels on the reverse tilt shed placement as well, and you get a detailed analysis of the report as well. So without the solar labs, you will find it very hectic, because when the sales team goes to the customer premises, they fill up the form, then there's a survey, then there's a detailed design. But when you get it designed on AutoCAD or SketchUp or PVSS, but it's a all-in-one software with the solar labs. So in that, the marketing team, technical team, and the execution team all can use the same software, and they can create a sales proposal, design report, 3D model, CAD layout, export the PVSys, and you get a 25 years of energy simulation. So TSL enabled design is like you can get the CAD layout, as you can see over here in the image, and you get a shadow analysis onto the report as well. So the shadow analysis is done for all the 365 days, but we provide on the report for 2 days, that is for winter solstice and summer solstice. So you get a payback graph as well, so 25 years of analysis, and we provide a according to the net present value, what will be the value, and if the customer is going through solar. So what value we bring is we bring a web-based software which you can use anywhere, and it cuts down your design time to 70 to 80%. So in it the solar lab increases your conversion rate as well, because the more you cater to the prospect, the more you get the deal signed. So designing team is time gets reduced, and basically you can just create it an optimized design solution in just 20 minutes of time, and the sales cycle gets reduced significantly. So we have our expertise from Indian Institute of Technology and global technology companies like Fractal Analytics, IBM Watson, Ericsson, and IIT Mandi. So we have few of the clients. I would like to take the name as well. Tata Power is there, Adani Power is there from India. So there are 450 plus clients who are associated with us. Now we will quickly move towards the design studio, where I'll make the design. So once my screen is visible, just if you can confirm, Priyanshi.
Sure, sir. We can see your screen.
Yeah. So this is a design summary page. I have entered like a few of the information like project informations, and we'll just go to the editing studio as there's a time constraint. So in the editing studio, the map will open, which I have selected previously. So I have selected a commercial and industrial site, and the commercial and industrial site uh, has a tin shed roof and RCC roof. So I think there's a net issue.
I believe Udit sir, is having some network issues.
Yeah, it's loading now. So there's my internet is a bit low. I'll just yeah, just give me a minute. Huh? I'll switch
Sure, sir.
the Wi-Fi.
Sure, sir. I would just request you if you can. Udit sir has lost his connection, so I request my attendees to have a little patience, and he'll come back. Yes, sir. So I just request you if you can keep your camera off and display your presentation.
Yeah. I'll do that.
That would be better.
Yeah.
Udit sir, can you please share your screen now? Udit sir, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think you can't see my screen, right?
No, we cannot see your screen.
Yeah. Let me share it once again.
Sure, sir, sure. Thank you, audience, for having patience.
Is it visible now?
No, sir, unfortunately, we cannot see your screen. Yes, sir, we can see the screen now.
Yeah. So I have opened a map which has a RCC roof and a tin shed roof. On the left hand side, there are tools which we can use to design the site, and on the right hand side, there's a project summary. So I'll use the model tool and the polygon tool to sketch one side of the tin shed. So the auto snapping is all at 90 degree. So we just need to enter the base height, the model properties. Like I'll give a base height and a tilt of 15 degrees, and the inclination is towards southeast direction. So I'll choose the southeast direction and update. So I'll make the skylights and the air vents as well using the tools. So I'll use cylinder tool, and I'll give it a model height as 0.5, and then I'll just copy paste it and use the repeat option over here. So there are skylights as well. So I'll use the polygon tool once again. And I'll make it inclined towards the roof itself with a 0.2 meters height, and azimuth towards southeast direction and update. Then we will do Control C and Control V and increase the repeat count to 2. So our one side of the shed roof is done. If you will see it in 3D, it looks something like this. But to make another side, we need not to do the same work again and again. We just select the whole roof and we do a copy paste. And we need to mirror it. So we press M on the keyboard and it gets mirrored. So exact replica of it in the symmetrical way it's placed. And if you will see the site in 3D, it's something like this. On the roof, we can place the panels in 3 modes. That is, one is add subarray mode, second is add table mode, and the third one is fill face option. So I'll select the face of the roof, and there's a fill face option that pops up. I'll place the panels. The maximum number of panels that can be accommodated onto the roof will be placed automatically, and then we can place the walkways. So walkways can be placed um horizontally, or if you want to place it vertical, you can place that as well. So you can place multiple walkways onto the roof in just a few seconds, and you can toggle between the directions as well. As we have kept a width of 0.25, you can change vary the width and the core height of the walkways as well. You can even place the safety line. onto the roof, and the handrails as well. So now if we will see our site in 3D, it will be something like this with the handrails and the walkways. These are the walkways and these are our handrails, and with the safety line over here. So it gives a quick, and now we have a DC size of around 119 kilowatt. We can optimize the solution as well using the heat map and the solar access as I talked about. So using the heat map, it gives a color coding to the roof where we have placed the panels, and solar access will give you the color coding to the panels that are placed onto the roof. So the panels which are getting a shadow will be color coded as orange or some color, because the shadow of this thing is falling over here. Wherever the panels has not been placed, it will not give it will have the like a shadow of the onto the main roof, but it will not give a color coding to that. So here you can see these panels are getting more, if you will see the solar access, it has 86% of the time solar access throughout the solar time. But if you will check for these panels, it has 95.2% of the solar access. So like that wise, if we will place the panels in the true south direction, let's say if we make a model over here, and I give it a height of around 12 meters and a parapet thickness of 1 meter and zero point 0.5 meters of parapet width, and update it. So there are few structures over here. I'll just make that as well, and I'll give it a height of around 4 meters. So now we can place the panels on this roof as well using another mode that I talked about, using add subarray option. So we can select a particular area onto the roof, and the maximum panels that can be placed in this area in the true south direction will be placed. You can change the orientation as well, like landscape to portrait, and you can change the table size up and wide. You can change the azimuth. So if you want it to be in the south, true south direction, or southeast direction, you can do that. You can also vary the mount height. So if you want the mount height to be 2 meters, you can do that. And row spacing is calculated automatically, but we give an option for the manual row spacing, uh, doing the manual input for the row spacing as well, and then we can update it. So now if we'll save the design and have a solar access for this, so it will give color coding to this solar panels as well. So here you can see these are green panels, more greener panels, because it's placed in the true south direction. And if you will check for the solar access, it has 98.5 percentage of the time solar access. Now the total site design is around of 147 kilowatt. Now we can place the inverters by going to the inverters menu. We can see the string inverters. So I'll place a 50 kilowatt inverter. So we have the inventory. So you can place any of the inverters of 50 kilowatt. Let's say we place a inverter of SunGrow, and we can place multiple. Like we can place it on the roof as well, and we can update. Now we can just generate the calculation for the annual generation, specific generation, and performance ratio by saving this design. It will have now the load ratio and other things as well, like the AC size as 150 kilowatt, and we can calculate the generation. So to view the site in 3D, you go to the view option and see it in 3D and SLD as well, the basic SLD. And now our annual generation, specific generation, and performance ratio has been calculated. So we have used around 316 modules over here on the both of the roofs. And I'll now switch off the heat map and the solar access. Now we can see the sun simulation as well. So here the date is of today's date, that is 22nd of October, and you can see the sun movement onto the roof as well. So you can see it for January to December, and from 12 to from morning to evening. To visualize the structures, you just need to click on show structures, and this thing will be enabled with the 3D web link as well. So here you can see the structures are there, and these are the inverters. So these are the structures only for the visualization purpose. So we don't provide the structural analysis yet now, but we are working on it. We'll be coming up with that soon. So we can just download the report. I have few downloaded reports as well for few of the sites that we have done. So till it's downloading, I'll just show the report for other sites. So you can customize your report as well by the color coding of your company. So basically, if you have a color coding like green or yellow, you can customize the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors and hit confirm. So this is the site that is a French Lick resort, which was made for the just for the demonstration purpose. Here you can see the this is report of 14 pages in which financial analysis is not there, but the report that I'll download has will have the financial analysis as well. So if you have the correct financials for the particular country, you can change the currency and get the financial analysis as well. So you can click to 3D view model, and you can see the model in 3D. This is a shareable link that you can share with the end customer, and the customer will be able to see the sun simulation, whatever the annual production is, and the payback period is there. So this is the site that we made just now of 147 kilowatt. And here on the second page you can see about us, so you can write about your company. In the system metrics you can see the annual production, performance ratio, specific generation, and we provide a data set for metronom. So we give an option to upload your own data set as well. So in this next page, there's an estimated savings page where you get the total savings, payback period, and internal rate of return with the price that you have quoted per kilowatt basis, with the tax and expected life of the modules. And here you can see the payback graph. Then there's a components page where you can see like which panels we have used. So we have used two types of panels. One is Trina Solar, and then the second one is Zinco Solar. And we have used three SunGrow inverters of 50 kilowatt. And we have a premium walkway of 100 meters as well. So we get a monthly production data where you can fit in the yearly degradation rate for the module as well. It can be done manually as well on the by going to the settings page. And here you can see like in which month there would be the highest production, and according to that there's a monthly savings data that the customer can see, like in which month he would be saving the highest. Then there's a monthly table data where you can see the global direct irradiance, diffuse irradiance, effective irradiance, array size, grid size, specific generation performance ratio with the annual thing as well. Then there's a field segment which shows which orientation are you putting, what tilt. So this can be used by the site engineers, and if the end customer wants to verify it, he can do also. Then there is a shadow analysis for summer solstice and winter solstice. And in the conclusion, we can see like the panels are shadow free for 99.81% of the solar time throughout the year. And this can be verified by the heat map and the solar axis, because the panels are almost green. That's why the panels are shadow free for 99.81% of the solar time. Then there are losses page, in which few losses are editable, and few losses are automatically calculated from the backend, like irradiance losses there, DC losses there, and AC losses is there. So AC ohmic loss, then unavailability loss, mismatch loss can be fed in manually as well. Then there is a interesting page of cost of not going solar, in which you can see that that the customer can see there is a significant difference between bill with solar and bill without solar. So it's a best option for him to choose solar for the next 25 years of time, where he can make a significant savings. Then there's an impact on environment for the social cause. There he can see like what impact he is bringing to the society, like what carbon dioxide offset, equivalent forestation, coal burn avoided, and like our daily use things like petrol consumption avoided and equivalent kilometers driven. Then in the last page, there's a thank you page where you can edit with your logo and your company details. So this was a small presentation. Priyanshi, you can take over.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful presentation and setting the tone for today's event. So let me see how many people are active with us. Can you hit the like button to show me your energy level? Okay, great. So now I know everyone is with me. So now it's the time to start with our much awaited panel discussion for the session on future technology advancement in rooftop solar. Focus on energy output. And in this esteemed panel, we have with us Mr. Milan Koev from Hexagon Peak, who is the session chair for today, Mr. Oliver Tan from Citicore Power, who is the co-session chair, Mr. John Ray Castro from Bevari, Mr. Robert Martin from Spectrum, Miss Priyamvada Pandit from SMA Solar, and Mr. Emmanuel R.U. from Historic Solar. The discussion will be led by Milan sir and Olive sir. Welcome all the panelists on the screen, and I'm handing it to the session chair. Thank you so much, sir. Milan sir has some technical issue, I believe. So Oliver sir can take it over.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. To my fellow speaker and all the audiences in the room. Um, so, Priyansi, should we jump ahead to the first question?
Sure,
Um,
sir, sure. You can
yeah,
take it ahead.
yeah. So the first question is, what is the most widely adopted module technology, and what technology advancement will be seen this year? Um, we've seen the evolution in PV module technology through the years. When our company, Citicore Power, ventured into solar power back in 2015, the commonly available modules in the market back then were polycrystalline, ranging from 260 watt peak to 300 watt peak in panel sizes, with average module efficiency of 16%. And the most widely adopted module technology we've seen today are the big monocrystalline half cell single glass, ranging from 450 to 550 watt peak, and with better average module efficiency of around 18%. This now this technological advancement in PV greatly reduced the capacity to land ratio requirement or capacity to roof space requirement in the case of rooftop solar. It means you produce more electricity on a per square meter of land or roof space. Like in our case, we have 8 utility scale solar farms built back then. We occupy around 1.4x capacity to land ratio. But the most recent solar farm we're building, it occupies around 1:1 ratio already because of the large panel sizes. So I guess the interesting question is, how advanced can we go from here? We believe a long way to go. Uh, Module efficiency will continue to improve, probably reaching 25 to 35% efficiency. And more modules variations are coming out in the market, such as modules that can, believe it or not, generate electricity from raindrops. So I guess our second question um, would be, what are the technological breakthroughs in inverters? How are they acting as smart PV solutions? May I request whoever in the speaker would like to take this question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. Just wanted to come back on the point about the module sizes as well, because that's really interesting and also very timely, given the current supply chain situation that we are facing. I think all the solar industry players have seen the current changes in terms of prices for modules, but that also gives you a sense of the innovation that goes with the modules. So fully agree with you. The capacities of modules are increasing, so that will continue. There are, of course, challenges on that from a solar rooftop perspective in terms of size. How do you handle that? The wind speed, the larger size modules, of course, creates additional hassle in terms of installation. So it's not just a question of power, but also a question of where the power increase is coming from. Is it coming from the current, the voltage? Because that has significant impact in terms of design. So I think that's a great innovation coming from module supplier, but also one question that could be answered by the panelists could be how does that impact in terms of installation, the other components as well, because the power is increasing, the cable lengths, the cables that you're using, the mounting structure, which I think could be put on the table for discussion as well. On the other hand, it also gives us a question on where the innovation would be coming. Is it just power? There's also the side of materials, which is also increasing in terms of prices. So the innovation towards alternative materials rather than where we are so dependent, like silicon, for example, is that something that we could see in the near future, and how would that implicate in terms of installation? So yeah, that's just my few points on the module side.
Thank you, Junri. I guess we have Milan back with us. Milan, good afternoon.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, thanks, Oliver. Sure, I missed a couple of minutes. I don't know whether we did a proper introduction to everyone. If we haven't, then maybe I'll just ask a quick question, and everyone, please take the opportunity to introduce yourself and the company that you represent, followed by the question that I want to ask. And the question is a little bit bold, difficult to answer, but it will set the stage for hopefully arguments, because that's the best source of truth. So I want to ask, how will the industry, and particularly the rooftop projects in Philippines, but also globally, evolve, and how do you see a typical project look like in 10 years from now? What will be leading technologies? What will be module size? And what will be the capex for a, let's say, 1 megawatt rooftop project? Because these are the key questions that will dictate, where the industry will go. So let's go one by one. I guess I heard Oliver and Junior just talking. So I guess we can start with Emmanuel first.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I'm the Executive Director of Hydraulic Solar Philippines. We are part of the Hydraulic Solar Group of companies headquartered in Malaysia. So we just started our business late 2019. So our project, we are focused more on the CNI. Yeah, so it's a good start. Even during the pandemic, we were able to finish 3 commercial projects, and we do some small residential as well. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity.
Emmanuel, how do you see a typical system cost, size, and so on in 10 years from now?
Well, if you go back 10 years before, I believe we can look back 10 years before, the cost is about double the cost now. So we expect due to the advance in technology and the efficiency of all the ecosystem for the module, for the inverters, my forecast will be in 10 years time, the price will be almost half of what the present price is now. That's my forecast. Yeah.
Thanks. Robert, what is your view, sir?
Hi, thank you, Milan. Again, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Pereja. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Spectrum, the solar company of Meralco. In fact, some of my colleagues here, fellow speakers, are quite familiar, friends in the industry. Um, 10 years from now, in terms of solar panels, a few years back, Spectrum started using, we entered the market way back 2016 using thin film panels. First solar, thin film panels, not polycrystalline, not monocrystalline, but thin film panels. And that was, well, it was a big break because at that time, First Solar, and the First Solar guys, if you guys are listening, that was the time when we were the only ones who actually used it, and First Solar gave us a very good deal. And it became the starting point of Spectrum. Well, fast forward 5 years now, we're, we're shifted to monocrystalline PERC. No? Not because of any product issues. I have to give it to the thin film guys. They gave us very good product. We experienced performance ratios reaching up to 95% performance ratio, and that is unbelievably high. But it's a fact that the performance ratio, which for poly and mono is around 80-85%. If you use thin film panels, you can go up to high as 95%, and that's true. 10 years from now, if the supply situation in silicon dependency and scarcity will continue, because silicon is not just widely used in the solar industry, but also in the semiconductor industry. We use it for our cell phones, tablets, computers, everything. So whatever silicon is produced in the wafer plant, it gets shipped, it gets used, it gets sold. Okay, that's the scarcity of silicon, and it's an opportunity if the thin film guys can capitalize on the scarcity of silicon and increase in scale. It could be an opportunity 10 years from now for the thin film guys to make a big market here in the Philippines. Now, in terms of inverters, um, the most widely used technology is the string inverter. And 10 years from now, I think it will still be the string inverter, especially for the large installations. But right now, we for this year we started using micro inverters, no, particularly Enphase. We signed a partnership with Enphase late last year, and we saw the advantage of using micro inverters initially for the residential market because we noticed that for one, installation time is cut by half, 50% faster installation. Commissioning is simplified, 50% faster and simpler commissioning. Application for net metering is also simplified. The functionality test is easier to conduct. Zero export limitation is also simpler. Um, Initial investment cost difference is not that high, but if you analyze the levelized cost of energy over a period of 25 years, it will result to a lower LCOE. I think that's it. 10 years from now, I see still maybe 1,000 watt panels of monoPERC to be there. But if the thin film guys can capitalize on silicon shortage, it can open up opportunities for them to take the market, a large chunk of the market. And I see a mix of use between string inverters and micro inverters, depending on the application for commercial and industrial. That's it.
Thanks, Robert. I completely agree, particularly on the shortage of raw materials right now. Just to share, we received a quotation for next week delivery. That is 40 US dollar cents for, I cannot give too much details, but a project in Japan, 40 US dollar cents. And the reason for that is because they have no visibility on what's going to be the price for polysilicon next week. Which is ridiculous. It's really hurting the industry right now. Priyamvada, do I pronounce your name correct? Please, over to you.
Hello, thank you. My name is Priyamvada Pandit. I'm working as a technical sales support manager. I sit in India. We look after India and Southeast Asia, the entire region. We have Solar Academy, so we have different courses. We also do pre-sales technical support. So I'm mainly from the technical background rather than the project complete background. But yes, being an application engineer, you have to look into the overall perspective and the application part of the system definitely. So regarding your question about the cost itself, I probably I'm not the correct person to directly pinpoint give the exact costs, but definitely it will go down depending upon compared to the current scenario that we have right now. More there would be other changes in the system that I would like to talk about mainly is if the in penetration of renewable is going up in the different grids, then the requirement which are by the utilities are going to change. This is going to change the how the system is going to look like. For example, the requirements from the inverter or the system, whether for the typically for the bigger system, even though they are rooftop system, for example, if you are talking about 2 megawatt 5 megawatt rooftop which are industrial systems, they would probably require to provide reactive power support more because of the local industrial loads which are consuming reactive power. Then you need to have support for typically because of that your if your PV system is very big, and for the industrial roads you also see it also affects the your power factor. So you need your PV system to support the power factor and give the power factor correction. Sometimes depending upon how the entire energy sector progresses, if if you have different tariff rates at different time, you might require the energy shift. You want to use solar energy which you are generating during day, you want to use it in the evening, so you might require the local energy storage requirements. All that is defined how the total cost of the project or the PV system is going to look like, because it is not going to be just the PV system. Along with that, there is possibility that you will have to integrate the storage, so then the cost of the batteries and everything is going to add on to that. So depending as we have to meet the requirements of the targets for the renewable and everything, these all also have a bigger uh, role to play in the overall system cost and LCON and everything which are there into it. So that's what we think, that's how the market would go ahead.
Perfect. Thanks, Priyamvada. I think you're right, and very optimistic to see from two panelists already that cost is expecting to decline. There is opinions in the industry that we have reached the bottom of the curve. And there are several arguments for that. One is the real bottleneck for the industry to grow in the pace as it has been growing so far is the grid infrastructure problems. Between now and the next 10 years, a lot of grids must be upgraded on those particularly big markets. Take China, India, and the US as the leading three markets in the world. All of those three countries have troubles with intermittency and grid situation. So I guess looking at this top down, it really depends. It's a function of the total demand, global annual demand, which grows but slowly nowadays. and the supply. And I think supply is always going to be in an oversupply situation. It has been forever. But let's see. It's interesting. It's really interesting to see whether those forecasts will come into place that will have the double or twice lower the cost in the next 10 years. That will mean solar panels at whatever 10 to 15 cents per watt, which is a perfect scenario from the downstream marketplace, but I'm not sure whether manufacturers will be happy with this forecast. Oliver, to you, sir, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, um, I think the most important is how to increase the efficiency of the modules, because we did a simulation for every 1% increase in the efficiency, what would be the impact to its LCOE. In fact, at current average of module efficiency of 18 to 20%, we've seen LCOE drop to more or less 6 to 7 cents US dollar per kilowatt hour. So further improvement in the efficiency would definitely be uh, driving the prices lower from an LCOE point of view. And I also concur with the view of Robert a while ago on the thin film. I think once the thin film become widely used, this will open up new markets, especially in the urban centers wherein you've seen high rise building with limited roof spaces. So if you can incorporate thin film with glass wall curtains, you would now have entirely new applications with roof space limitations. And then and it's also exciting as you see the evolution in the battery energy storage systems, because I'm not sure in other countries, but in the Philippines, we've have two peak demand. So we have the day peak demand and night peak demand. So that battery energy storage system evolution, once it's become more and more economically viable, it will open up new markets for solar power, because right now, obviously, solar power only caters to day peak. But with the battery energy storage system, it will now be able to also cater to night peak demand in our country.
It will be interesting to see whether thin film will become a thing. It never has, fortunately or unfortunately, and I guess we have some sort of monopoly in this segment. First Solar leading, and everyone else is really peanuts in the supply chain. BIPV hasn't become a thing as well for many years. Maybe it will. Hopefully, it will, because there is a lot of potential there with, as you said, with efficiency upgrades. So yeah, interesting to see. Udit, you design a lot of systems. How do you see the future?
So basically, as per the market of the rooftop, we have seen rooftop market being increasing on year basis. So basically, if we design an optimal solution, so next, what we are looking up for the solar tiles as well, that can be placed onto the rooftop. That would also give an optimized solution for the end customers. And for the high rise building, as Oliver mentioned, we can have that placed onto the high rise building as well. And in that case, we can always get an optimized solution. So the thin films, as Robert said, these are the new technologies that are emerging right now, and we have to accommodate with that as well. So uh, designing the site with new features would be an added advantage, where the end customer would be able to visualize everything, not verbally, but by seeing it. So he would not be only listening, he would be also seeing the site as per the designing is done by the engineers. And uh, the panels that companies are providing to the for the installation purpose, how it's behaving, like the performance ratio, as Robert said, it's for the thin films as being 95%. So it's an optimized solution in that case for the end customer. So he would preferably will not think of the investment that he's putting in, and will look forward for investing for better savings, because not only the it's a true thing that we invest a lot at the first point, but we make a lot of savings in next 25 years of time or 30 years of time with the solar panel placement. So that's my point of view, that's my view. And I particularly when I have interactions with different country, people have different opinions according to the market. So it particularly depends on the like thought process as well. So thinking process of the end customer has to be put in a such a way that they look forward for solar enhancement.
Thank you. By the way, reach over with some presentation on your product because it looks very interesting after the call. Uh,
Sure.
Generally, to you, sir, I don't think BayWa needs much introductions, but it will help. And what is your view on the future?
Thank you, Milan. So, in terms of cost, it's really no way up but going down. So, fully agree with you guys in terms of price projections. But I think one of the biggest change that we would see in the future is really the consumer adoption. The way the industry is working now in terms of solar adoption will change a lot. The consumer behavior in terms of solar will also change, and this will drive costs down even more significantly. On top of that, when demand is there and when supply chain issues like what the one we're facing now is there, innovation is limitless. So that really opens up in terms of innovation to drive the cost down. Um, there are a lot of components, a lot of factors to make the cost go down, but at the end, we're all selling energy. There will also be changes on how energy will be sold in the future. And I'm a big believer, and the company in bio as well is a big believer in terms of digital transformation of the future. So, if you remember a few years back, when you want to have a computer, you have to buy different components and put it together. And now you can just buy a whole new laptop which functions all the things that you need in there. And that's I think where the solar industry is heading as well. That's where the innovation will come through. And a lot of these changes is not just on the component level but also on how do we integrate the solar components and make it much easier for the consumer to use this at the end.
Sounds perfect. Then I would ask you a question. Do you see smart panels with integrated batteries and microinverters as a one thing?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of opportunity in terms of we're talking about applications. So in different combination of different equipments. I know Robert, a friend of mine, also mentioned about the advantages of microinverters. There's also the prominence of string inverter now. It's really a question on the innovation side, the integration as well. There are a few companies, as you know, who has been integrating energy storage together with their product, and these are currently kind of considered as two separate products, right? But you see the harmony in terms of technology and inverters and energy storage will become one in the future. So that's definitely an exciting innovation to see, but that's also brings a lot of opportunity in terms of different application. So we have seen, for example, that in certain applications, string inverters makes a lot of advantage, but also in certain application, microinverters does. But to certain level point, it doesn't make sense for microinverters, for example. So it really also depends on the application that the project would be.
Yeah, but I'm touching more on your comparison with the laptops or computers that you had to assemble in the past, and now you just buy and turn on. I think the same can apply one day to installing solar panels on your own roof. IKEA is selling solar panels now. So essentially, if we have a solar panel that is basically just press a button and it works, that will open up more segments, those micro residential segments. But yeah, fair enough. I guess the conclusion here is that we're moving towards lower cost, higher efficiency, and new technologies or improved technologies. Now, this translating to market terms means that the gap between grid cost and solar will grow significantly over the next 10 years, let's say. That will also translate into significantly more savings to the off-takers slash profits for the investors. That's to be assumed. So essentially, CNI segment particularly, which is not driven by any regulations, subsidies whatsoever, will keep increasing in the overall installations of solar worldwide. So I guess that's good news for everyone because first, you don't need subsidies. Second, you really save bills, and you have a decentralized system that doesn't use the grid, doesn't create any grid challenges whatsoever. So if we focus this on the CNI segment, what and starting with Emmanuel, who his company has good experience in Malaysia already, that part of it or portion of it can be translated into the Philippines agenda. But what is really challenges for the rooftop segment as of today to really skyrocket? And we see. I listened a little bit from the previous panel. There's a few opinions that the Philippines CNI segment is something between 40 and 60 megawatt per year, which is really nothing because there is tens of gigawatts of rooftops in the Philippines, and you can save up to 50%. We have done a few estimations on potential customers. Some of those bills are up to 16, 17, 18 US dollar cents per kilowatt hour. So solar can actually really save a significant amount of money. Why is it not happening?
Well, yeah, I agree. No, so for comparison purposes, I think Philippine market should be something similar to Vietnam for the demographic and the GNP and the economic standing. However, Vietnam last year they did I think 13 gigawatts total installed projects. So Philippines we are very far off, but I think the opportunity is there. So for the CNI, namely if the customer is a multinational company, actually it's just very quite straightforward, no, for the business because the multinational company they understand the technology. However, for the SME in Philippines, they are more conservative when coming to this solar. So most of the small and medium enterprises, they're very concerned about the technology because number one, they're not familiar, and then number two, they don't really trust the technology. So it's a matter of mindset. No, our challenge is to teach the consumer or the general public about the efficiency and the advantage of using solar PV for their businesses. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, of course, people turned to be more conservative than their usual. So they want to have I think the finances more for the core business. So right now it's a bit challenge for us, for the CNI. However, I believe that down the road, if people have heard success story rather than previous some horror stories that they heard, so it will become more acceptable for them to you for this technology. So it's just a matter for me. It's just the education of for the consumer market. Yeah. Because the payback in Philippines is really very good, no? So we are looking at 4 years or maybe less than 4 years. But it's the trust of the consumer right now, the challenge. For the MNC, no problem. But for the general SME, that's a challenge. Yeah, you're right, no? So the opportunity is huge for the Philippine market. I think the market is big enough for everyone. It's a huge market to be filled up by us. So the future is still, I think, it's a sunrise industry in the Philippines. Pardon the pun. No, it's a sunrise and a bright future for the solar industry.
Very optimistic. Robert, do you share the same opinion? Is it education that is really needed in the CNI market?
Well, I think I think I would agree to that completely 5 years ago. But right now, what we're seeing is that the C&I market mostly are very well educated already. They can, when they release terms of references, they are very detailed already what kind of technology they want to put in the roof. It is not anymore a question if solar is a worthwhile investment. It is already a fact that it is a worthwhile investment. It is now a challenge of economics. For me, in my opinion, it's a challenge of economics. It's a challenge of LCOE, and it's a challenge of quality. Um, we've in the previous session, in session 3, the guys there, the speakers there mentioned about the prices are offered really low because the wire sizes are the wire sizes of some of our brothers in the industry are undersized. The quality is not at par with what is needed, and it makes solar players like ourselves uh, who have quality designs and workmanship to be priced at a premium. So I think right now it's not a matter of education, but a matter of economics, uh, price, supply and demand scenario, and a matter of quality and technology. Technology is so fast paced that in fact I see that 5 years from now batteries will be a hit. Now, not just batteries but energy storage in general. No, because the flywheel guys are very bullish that their solution can actually prove to be a better alternative than batteries in the next 5, maybe 8 years down the road. Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. Fully agree, particularly on the battery. I need to agree with Emmanuel that we are still educating customers, but I also agree with you that they are now a little bit more aware of what solar system is like, and it's more like an economical conversation than really solar or not. That I agree. But the point with batteries is really a key, and I guess Philippines is probably next to Indonesia the best place in our region to deploy batteries in a huge scale. So I guess that shifting to Oliver, whether batteries storage projects will really pick up anytime soon. I remember there was this problem with these jokers from Solar Philippines that got exclusivity on developing storage projects in Philippines. But I don't know whether this has been resolved. Am I now able to go to Philippines and develop a solar storage system?
Yeah, Milan. Before I answer the question on the storage, I just want to give my 2 cents word on the topic. More than the education and the economics that Manuel and Robert shared, let's not forget that uh, financing and the regulatory are also integral in the ecosystem. Okay, regulatory in terms of the ability to freely export your excess power to the grid. Okay, because I believe that we have adequate pool of resources in financing to fund SME rooftop projects. However, because of the regulatory limitations, they tend to shy back because they're exposed to concentration risk. So if you are funding one SME building only and without the ability to export to the grid, you essentially expose yourself to concentration risk in the sense that if that SME company went bankrupt, there goes with your financing and your investment, right? So I guess the regulatory should be more, I would say, more open to encourage mini microgrid by taking away the cap in the exporting of excess power. And then number two, uh, the how the distribution utility price their their cost is all needs also to be reviewed, because there are two components basically in your power cost. You have the fixed component and the variable. So if you install a solar rooftop, the savings really does not take away your fixed component cost, especially for the large consumer. Because of the large consumer, normally the your distribution utility will invest on certain transformer dedicated to you. Hence, you end up paying that fixed component. So even if you have savings in the rooftop, you don't really benefit entirely. Okay, so that's part of the economics. Now going to the storage system, yes, we share the same bullishness with our brothers here that the future really is hybrid, solar plus storage system, be it battery or whatever technology. The ability to store and use it when it's basically matching your peak production hours from your peak demand. That's going to be big in the future.
Perfect. Okay, Udit, are you on the same page?
Yeah. Like basically, the financial and the regulatory authorities plays a very significant role in any like whenever we try to enter into any of the markets, we also find such difficulties because the regulatory authorities have put some cappings. They have some their own regulations. So it's sometimes there has to be some bendings that has to be done as per the market changes, and then accordingly we can enter into the market and cater the whole segment. So there are few restrictions on our end, there are few restrictions on the SME sectors, there are few restrictions on the regulatory bodies. So it's all combined together brings to a point like where we can focus like how our segment is like a renewable segment is going to grow in next 5 to 10 years of time, and then we can look forward for the like changes that the regulatory authorities can most of the regulatory authorities in different countries have brought many changes. So they are working on it and they are bending the things as for the players into the market as well. So it is making more profit in that sense it's very easy for any of the companies to enter into any of the market right now and uh, g- make their presence over there. So that's my point of view.
Thanks, Udit. Junri, back to you. Bayway is deploying a lot of solar and storage projects all around the world, particularly so in Europe and in the US, on a very big scale. What is your view on storage in Philippines?
So, if you look at the current situation in Philippines, there's definitely a need, and this is same is true as with other countries in Southeast Asia as well. As you have pointed out, Milan, Indonesia is a good example as well. But on a broader scope, in terms of solar deployment, I think there's really two hurdles in the Philippines. One is of course, as what Robert and also the rest of the panelists has mentioned, the economics of it would be key. And the second is dealing with the intermittency of solar energy, and that could only be addressed by battery storage. Of course, there's regulatory hurdles at the moment, and also if you look at deployment of solar, the cost at the moment we're kind of looking at subsidies, which it's a good kickstarter of any solar program in any country, and we've seen that to become a very successful market in for example countries like Vietnam, where we've seen a solar boom last year. But after having no subsidies, then things are very quiet. So I have a very different view sometimes in terms of subsidies. It's a good thing to start off business, and even for energy storage. I think what the main responsibility really to drive the change as well would be coming from private sectors to create demand on offering the products, also to provide a value and economical prices. And solar storage at the moment, though the innovation has been going really well, there are certain applications where it makes sense. For example, if you look at the CNI market, we still have hard time in terms of understanding the business case model, but it really makes sense in terms of residential application. And to be very frank, if I look at the solar market in terms of residential application in the Philippines, it's just the perfect fit for energy storage. And even we have deployed quite a number of energy storage for residential application in the Philippines. And I have to say, we have underestimated the demand of the consumers. So if I were to look at it in the Philippines, the easiest target and the first step is to really look at the residential application for energy storage. It makes a lot of sense. And it goes then after a few years that it may have to go to CNI and even for large scale utility applications.
Very good. I think very good approach to start with residential, decentralized where it's needed before you go to the bigger picture. I guess Priyanshi, we're scheduled to close the session by 5:20, and probably we can leave some 10 minutes for questions. Although I see there is three questions, which one of which is not related. It mentions curtailment in China, which is not the purpose of this panel. We have comments on BIPV, which we touched based on previously, and there is some self-presentation there as well, which is not relevant as well. So instead of answering questions, I would ask to all the panelists to basically make a closing remark on whatever they feel has not been mentioned. Again, the focus is technology, how this will evolve, and just keep it for a couple of minutes each, starting with Emmanuel.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank everyone for inviting me to this panel. For the Hydraulic Philippines, we are very optimistic about the future of solar industry in the Philippines. Like I said, it's a huge vacuum to be filled up. We have so much work to do, and with the advance in technology, actually, for even the energy storage and all the other mentioned, the future is already here. No, so it's a very bright future ahead of us. I'm confident about all the development that's been happening, and of course, the energy demand will still increase, especially in Philippines. The supply will not be enough to keep up, so there's a big room for renewable to fill up that gap. And thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Back to you, Robert.
Okay. Again, thank you, Milan. Thank you for the organizers of the Philippine Solar Week 2021. Thank you to my fellow speakers here, panelists for session 4. To the participants, thank you for listening. My final words before for to conclude this afternoon session is that we discussed about technological advancements. We discussed about economics and regulatory reforms that are needed to push forward renewable energy technologies like solar. Um, Maybe one thing that each and every consumer or customer should also take into consideration is is the resiliency of the company. When we choose a vendor for our investment, it is like when we buy a solar solution for our house, for our business, it is like getting married. because the life of the asset is practically 25 years. You practically get married to your solar solution, and your children actually also benefit from that marriage. When we get married, we want to get married to somebody or an entity that will stay alive for the next 25 years. And to my brothers and sisters in the industry, uh, of course, competition is good, but collaboration, I believe, is a lot better. If we can work together to make our companies more resilient in order to serve more customers by collaborating, uh, then I think this industry will continue to grow despite of the challenges of scarcity of silicon. And and that's the and that's my parting words for this afternoon, not just for the participants, but also to our competitors in the industry. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Robert. Love the comparison with marriage. I guess I heard in Philippines divorce is not very straightforward, so marriage probably lasts a very long time.
Yeah.
But globally, there is an interesting statistic that I read for OECD countries where the average duration of a marriage is 11 years. So, in fact, your solar marriage is twice longer than average marriage. But very good comparison. Oliver,
Yeah. Again, on behalf of our company, we would like to extend our deepest appreciation for inviting us in this Philippine Solar Week. Thank you to the organizers and fellow speakers and audience. We are at the forefront of this net zero movement. In fact, we are bullish in the renewable energy sector. We are doing the very first energy REIT IPO in the Philippines. Uh, Hopefully, we get it out before the end of the year, if not early next year. We're raising 200 million US dollar essentially to recycle capital to build more solar plants, be it solar farms or rooftop to cater to CNE and residential. In fact, we have a robust pipeline projects. We will be building 1.5 gigawatt of new solar plants in the next 5 years. That's how confident and bullish our group are. And secondly, I think I failed to mention that Citicorp is part of the wider Citicorp Megawide group. Megawide is our sister company. We are doing great R&D such that we would want to integrate solar technology and treat it like a building material. We're trying to integrate it with roofing sheets, with wall curtains, as I mentioned a while ago, such that we would want to expand the application of solar beyond what the market knows today, which is limited only to roof space. And to the audience, you can also participate in the net zero movement by the government actually through the green energy option program empower consumer for you to source your power directly from renewable energy sources. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
thanks, Oliver, and good luck with your IPO. I guess we need more IPOs in Southeast Asia. There has been a few in India, a few in China, Singapore, but it's going to be very good to see more in Philippines as well. Priyamvara?
Yes. Hello. Thank you everyone for your time. On behalf of, uh, as Robert said, a very strong, from a family with very strong marriage, I would say, because when we talk about the sustainability and the vendors, as Mr. Robert mentioned, currently I come from a company, I'm part of the family, SMA, which is celebrating 40 years into this industry. So we have been into this industry for 40 years. Our family are all our customers who have used our services, our products. Uh, we have actually seen projects which are running more than 25 years. When we say the products are there in the market for 25 years, or the products are designed for to last long for 25 years, we have seen that actually happen. We have seen our products getting installed all over the world. So that way, I'm very honored to present a company which has a very strong background, and still it is going so. Uh, Apart from that, I would say, regarding today's discussion, there are many points because of obviously the time constraints. Regarding the technology advancement, we have not been able to talk about in today's discussion, but I think we will in future get more opportunities to do so. So typically, apart from the module technologies and other inverter technologies, what important is, according to me and our company, is advancement in the communication and the control for the entire plants that is required. As we have more decentralized plants, more decentralized systems, we need to have a proper communication which is faster as well as which is more secure. So cyber security and everything becomes more important. Apart from that, it is also important to have systems which can be integrated. So the energy market is changing. So to have the open access energy market, to have even the private players come into the trading and everything, we want to have your systems which are integrable with all these features. So these energy management systems are also very important, going to be play important part of important role when we talk about the renewable and solar and storage. uh, this is something also we need to, I guess, talk about for the industrial systems. We need to also understand different aspects of supplying of the reactive power and the grid support. So all these technology advancements are going to help the shape or to shape the industry. And as from SMA, I would say that will be always there, and we will be supporting you with all these applications, since we are there from, say, residential to commercial, industrial to utility scale. We understand the requirements of each and every application, each and every business, and accordingly we are able to there provide you the solution for exactly the requirement. So thank you all for joining today, and many more chances to interact with you all, and you give us chance to serve you in a better way, to provide you better solutions which are sustainable solutions. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Priyanvada. You're right. We didn't really dive deep into the technical aspect, but you're the only technical manager on this panel, so we kept this more on the big picture. Junrei, your closing remarks and the last speaker.
Thank you, Milan. Thank you for the event organizer, the sponsors, SMA and Goodwe as well, for organizing this event. I'll make it sweet and short. So if you look at not just Philippines but the entire world, we're really in the forefront of revolution against the classical energy producers. So that's also one of the reasons why Baiwa invested heavily in the Philippines. We talk a lot about technology, about cost. These are all components of the future, right? We are also going through industrialization. The digital transformation is coming in, and the bigger question, as well as always for the audience, is how do we integrate these technologies? And that's exactly why Baiwa comes with a very strong position in the market to make sure that the component source out, the integration is coming from us. What Robert also mentioned, coming from a company that is established, bringing experience. And we're very happy to be in the Philippines now. We have a strong team on the ground supporting each of our customers, and will continue to grow with the market, to support the market. And we're just starting. I think this is the final message. The revolution in solar is just starting, and we still have a long, long way to go. Thank you.
Perfect. Very nice ending. Thanks, everyone. Back to Priyanshi.
Thank you so much, all the panelists, And thank you to both of you, Milan sir and Oliver sir. Your professional caliber and you both enhance their quality relevance while giving them an entertaining touch at the same time. This balance is only rarely achieved, and no wonder that your unique style of moderation attracted the attention and apt responses of panelists and audience. But the show is not over yet. We are having the most awaited part of the day, which is the Gala Awards of Philippine Solar Week. With this, I hand it over to Geeta. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The stage is set and the red carpet rolled to unveil our leaders of Philippine solar industry. We welcome you all to our Gala Award ceremony of Philippine Solar Week Leadership Awards 2021. I am Geeta, your host for the evening. This evening is all about acknowledging and cheering our winners for achieving these great milestones and recognition in the industry. Awards definitely make us feel happy, overwhelmed, and very proud. So, dear audience, since you all cannot come on the screen and clap for our winners, you can definitely go ahead and pour your congratulatory notes in the chat box, and we do have our emojis too. So, honoring these unconventional leaders of Philippine solar industry, we proudly commence our award ceremony for today. All right, so countdown has begun now, and let us start the ceremony with our first set of awards that are Business Excellence Awards, and the first category is Solar Company of the Year Developer. Okay, so before we announce who the winner is, we always have, we always tell you a little bit just about the winning company, and we provide you hints so that you can guess who the winner is. So let me tell you something about our winning company. So the company is a global leader in the solar energy market, offering solar projects of all scales, a full service portfolio including procurement, engineering, project construction service. The company has supplied over 3.5 gigawatt of projects for blue chip companies and public institutions and established operations on 5 continents. The project's capacity done by the winning company in the last fiscal year in the Philippines were about 640 kilowatt AC. So let us know who the award goes to, and the winner is. Well, the winner is Proenso. So may I request Mr. Robert Forrest, Commercial Director, Southeast Asia, Proenso, to kindly come on the screen and say a few words. Do we have Mr. Robert with us?
Geeta, we would be having Robeline from that company. Unfortunately, Robert will not be able to join us.
Sure, sure.
So
Could we have
Robeline
Mr.
will
Robert?
join the later on. Yeah, that person will join later on.
Okay, all right. So whenever he's available to join, we'll have it definitely on the screen back. So for now, I think we can move on to our next set of awards. So our next category is Solar Company of the Year Distributor. Okay, our winning company has more than 25 years of experience in the photovoltaic market. In the Philippines, it was established in 2019. However, the company has been quite successful in serving various customers even during the pandemic. In a span of just 2 years, they served more than 200 deliveries to various projects. In the most recent months, the Philippines entity of this company has secured numerous outstanding and game changing projects. Just to name a few, the company has secured deals to supply products for a major fast food chain in the Philippines. Few projects highlighted are projects completed in Manila Water Services inside La Mesa Dam. I think by now you might have guessed it who the winner is. So let us see who the winner is. Well, the winner is Beware. Now, may I request Mr. Leo, the country sales manager of Philippines, Beware, to kindly come on the screen and accept the award.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Leo. Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you. Yeah.
Hi, Miss Geta. Thank you for this opportunity to have being invited and one of the your awardees. And thank you for the organizer, SMA and Goodwe, and the sponsor for the Philippine Solar Week 2021 Conference and Awards, for giving this award to Baiwa RE Solar Systems Corporation. Um, would like to say thank you as well for our Baiwa partners and customers and suppliers. And of course, would like to recognize my team as well, who put all the effort to work and has dedicated all their efforts to serve our valued customers, and even our the management team of Biowa for the unrelenting support even during this pandemic. As you know, Geta, this award is very timely given the current supply chain disruption every solar player is facing now. Distribution business will be a key driver to enable and support the solar growth in the Philippines. And Biowa is committed to continue serving the customers to support their business growth and with unparalleled high quality products and services. We will make it sure that we will continue with our vision to support the solar market growth in the Philippines, for a greener and sustainable future. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Leo, and heartiest congratulations to the very hardworking team. Well deserved win out there. So, Mr. Leo, in a very short span of time, the company has really done a great amount of work in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And like you handle the Southeast Asia. So, compared to the Southeast Asian regions other than Philippines, the Philippines market was more challenging or was it more accepting for you during the pandemic time?
Uh, I think that during the pandemic time is we could see the really challenging. Of course, the pandemic is the first time that we already facing it. A lot of factors. Most of the government policies are being disrupted because of some series of lockdowns. But then again, the relentless effort of our team to manage in such a way that we could cope up with the challenge in the market, and of course the support with some of our partners and suppliers as well. I think we could handle it very well. So I think now, as we can see, the pandemic is we with the whole support of the team and then people surrounding us. I think we could really beat this pandemic, and then I could see next year we have a lot of projects to do. Yeah.
Fantastically put out there. I must say, really, really very well deserving win and very hardworking team
Thank you
to
so
be
much.
working during the pandemic also. One more question for you, not very professional though.
Sure.
So, okay, so during the pandemic, we all had so much of time, since I'm sure you must be busy, working so hard during the pandemic, but did you find some time to relive your passion or to try a new hobby? So have you?
Yeah, yeah. Because of the pandemic, most of us, the Biowa said we have to work from home. So most of the Filipino people are they have their hobby about planting a lot of plants or to
Nice.
decorate. But now, when I was stuck here at my house, so I was My hobby is having a lot of aquatic fish and aquatic plants. So I have a hobby of planting aquatic plants. So I really love. Most of the people were love the I mean the plants just going to the soil, but mine is more of underwater aquatic plants. So that is my hobby, and then it somehow it's really also the challenges is to cope up with the new environment, the new normal. But then again, as we go along with these challenges, I think um, it's getting good. I would say you are with your family while you're working. I think it's now it's going fun. So I'm not really sure if I'm able to go back in the office if everything is goes fine. But for now, for the meantime, hobby, you need to find a ways to relieve your stress. I think one thing is you need to find a hobby that would relieve your stress from work. So of course you need to find your passion as well. So you need to find ways to make your life or work even better, even during this pandemic.
Absolutely. I think this pandemic has actually given us all a lot of time to, sit back and think. Otherwise, it's a past life. We all are always running and, trying to achieve a lot of things. So this time we
Yeah.
really got time to do. And I'm really, really impressed by the your hobby and your passion, seeing that, aquatic plants and all. It's
Yeah,
really good one.
it's quite difficult to have this hobby. So you need to spend a lot of time. Of course, you need to work first. But
That's
then
true.
again, when you are working at home, you could stretch a little bit. You can work a little bit late because your home is your office now. So then again, in between, you could check your hobby. I mean, it's up to you how you manage it.
So
It,
basically, the
it helps.
pandemic was not that bad for everybody. So you got
I
enjoyed a
think
lot of family time.
yeah, I think it's not that bad. Maybe in the first 2 months, I need to adjust myself. Um, Normally, I would love to have work at our office, so I could really focus on.
Mhm.
Once there's the transition from office to home, it's I think, and you need at least 1 month or 2 months to adjust. And now maybe next year, if everything goes fine, hopefully yes, I need another transition again, one from working from
Very
home
true.
to the office.
That's very true. I agree with you on
Yeah,
this one. It's very bad. Anyways, it was great talking to you and understanding a
you
lot of
too.
things from you.
And and
Heartiest congratulations.
we are very thankful to have being recognized as the best distribution company in the Philippines. So we will keep up our best effort. Of course, for sure, a lot of challenges next year. So yeah, I think we will support you.
We also look forward to having Devari as our winner for a lot of more competitions to come in many regions.
Thank you so
Thank,
much. Thank you so
thank
much
you
for
so
inviting
much.
us here.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, do we have a representative from Proenso? So could have them on the screen, please. Anjali, do we have Miss Ada with us? Do we have Miss Ada with us or any other representative from Proenco? Okay, I think we are ready to move on to our next set of awards. Okay, so our next set of awards is Solar Company of the Year Consultancy. So let me tell you a little bit about our winning company. The company is a global leader in solar energy market with business in units, project development, distribution, and integration, and business solutions. They offer a full service portfolio for solar projects of all scales. They work with their partners to provide tailored solar storage, energy efficiency, and management solutions to clients who want to optimize their energy consumption and reduce their carbon footprint. So let us see who this amazing company is, and the winner is right, so we have Pro and So as our winner. Now, do we have Miss Ada with us from Pro and So or any other representative to come on the screen, please?
Yes, Ida is there, Geeta. She's just trying to log in and
Okay.
she's just coming on the screen.
All
I
right.
think we should just wait for
We'll wait.
one more
Sure,
minute.
sure.
Yeah.
We'll wait for her. Meanwhile, audience member, I'll just request all of you to kindly start putting in your congratulatory notes for our winners because that's quite encouragement for them and that gives them a cheers. They really deserve. Sorry, they really deserve it. And also the emojis too. So we have this wonderful emojis out here on our platform. Yeah, I can see a lot coming in. Great. So I will also request, our audience members out here to kindly write in, like I asked Mr. Leo about his passion during the pandemic. We would love to see what all passions have you fulfilled and whatever have hobbies have you inculcated during this pandemic. So let me have some few very interesting, remarks coming in out there. Kindly write it in the chat and let me know what was the passion that you have fulfilled during this pandemic. I think you can just start typing in right now. Is it sorted? Anjali, do we have Miss Ada with us?
Yes, Geeta. Actually, she's trying. She has earlier joined from her phone, so that was why
Okay.
maybe the reason why she couldn't able to join us. But again, she's trying from the computer. Maybe now she can join us.
So I've not seen anybody writing in about their hobbies and passions. Audience, come on. I think you should just start writing about it. Let us also know what something new you have done, something new you have inculcated, any new passion, any new talent. Okay, Mr. Pratik says mimic. And whom do you mimic the best?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Hi, we can hear you, Miss Ada.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay, can I have you on the screen, please? Are you able to switch on your video?
No, sorry. I'm sorry. I cannot show my face through the video. Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, no
I
problem. Would love to hear
apologize.
from you. Kindly accept this, this award from our end. So would love to
Sorry,
hear from
sorry
you.
for that. It's a pleasure to be one to be here and having us, and for us it's a very good way to show our work in the local community. The Philippines is a great market for us. With this award is a recognition of our work. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Miss Ada, and for the earlier award too. So 2 awards in a row. I mean, I should say heartiest congratulations. Very well deserved, and indeed a very, very hardworking team out there. So,
Thank
Miss
you.
Ada, just a small question for you. So again, not professional, just a small personal question for you. Okay, if God gave you His power just for one day, how would you use these powers, and what are you going to do with it?
You mean with the award? Sorry, I didn't get it.
See, if God gave you
Yeah.
His powers for one day, something like Bruce Almighty, so He gave you the powers for one day, and it's your wish, you can do anything with those powers. What would you do with those powers? Is it a tricky question?
Yeah.
Yeah, but just
No
think about it.
idea
Just
what to
just
say. I
just give me
mean,
something random,
it's
something you
personal,
want.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
In this moment,
Uh-huh.
you know, um, stay healthy and be with family and friend. It's all for us. It's all for me. It's all for us. Keeping working on what you really like the most, I think,
Mhm.
is the most important thing, because you can make things growing in different, different aspects. Sorry, I don't know how to say or what to say. Sorry.
So, in shorter sense, that means that if you're a god and we pray to you, so we all have a healthy, wealthy life, all the human beings. So you'll be blessing us with a very good health and wealth and a good life. Is that so? Okay, Miss Ida. Miss Ida.
Sorry, sorry.
I think we lost
The
the signal
connection
out
is
there.
still low. Sorry,
Okay.
I
Anyways,
don't want
heartiest,
to.
no
Okay.
problem. Heartiest congratulations to you on this very, very great win. Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us move
Um,
to our. Yeah, sure. You're saying something?
no, no, sorry. The connection is quite low, and sorry. Please continue.
No, you would like to add something?
No, no,
Would
no.
you
It's
like to
okay.
speak
It's okay.
something?
Thank you. Continue,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, thank you so
No, no,
much,
no.
Sid. I think, yeah, it's really poor
Thank you.
connection out there. Okay.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay,
Indeed,
thank
it
you
is.
so
It
much.
is.
Thank you so much for coming here, and congratulations again for this very great win. So let us move on to our next set of awards. Can we have the slide, please? Okay, so it is very well said, quote, that we do not need magic to change the world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already, and we have the power to imagine better. And so is the power of our next leader, who has set an example and created a mark for himself in the industry. So let us see a little bit more about our leader. So, our business leader of the year has been a renewable energy developer since 2013. He has developed numerous projects for utility scale solar, wind, and hydro. He has contributed highly to the growth of his company during the pandemic and actually added more projects and employees. Our winner has actively participated in numerous speaking engagements for the industry during the pandemic to share knowledge about the industry and the market situation. A very commendable approach by our leader during the pandemic was to add more employees to his company rather than laying them off. So he has added numerous large scale solar projects to his portfolio and has signed an exclusive full development funding support for the entire pipeline. Absolutely a true mark of a great leader, I must say. So let us see who our leader is. And the award goes to. And the award goes to Mr. Ari Nathiwadat, President ZA Global Partnership Corporation. May I request Mr. Ari to kindly come on the screen, please? Yes, Mr. Ari? Yes, yes. You're
Hi,
absolutely
hi
visible.
everyone.
Yes, so we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I just want to thank the body and then the organization, the organizers, and the sponsors for this award. You know, it's very flattering, and I'm very proud to be recognized in an industry which I really love, and I really hope to stay for long, and even with my children as well. And this award really is basically for the ZA Global team. You know, it's basically a shared award. In March 2020, the world changed, and as we all know, and then we all had our difficulties, and we all faced our own challenges. But we continued to strive, and we continued to push forward. And as the saying goes, you know, the organization is only as good as its team. No? And then if you have a good team, then the organization can power through whatever challenges. So this award really goes to them. These are my partners, our employees, our staff, even our vendors, and all the new hires that we did during 2020, 2021, even on even if it's a consultancy basis or a full-time basis, they're all part of this. And also, I think I'll be quick because I know it's late. I think business leadership, you know, it's not just about, you know, growth or profit and all these things, no, but also more importantly about trying to create a really good future, you know, and that's what we really strive to do here. We are very lucky to be in this industry that's really having an impact on our future, on our children's future, on our grandkids' future. And then I hope that everyone here listening, the audience, and all the people in our industry all continue to do well despite these challenges. And then if we're having hard times, let's just remind ourselves, you know, that this is that every minute of every day that we are working is for all a greener future. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ari. I must say, I'm really impressed. That was a great speech coming from a great motivator and a leader out there. You're putting your team first, and they are the reason. And I must say, Keith, the company is doing so well. It's because of a leader like you. So you're out there motivating people. So I really want to understand from you that during this pandemic, a lot of bad scenario going on, but your company under your leadership has done so well and a very remarkable and a commendable job. And I was really impressed when I read that, not you're not laying off, but you are definitely getting in more employees and creating more work, for the people and more employment for the people. Truly, I must say, like, salute to you for that. So how do you
Thank
keep
you.
this motivating going? How do you what motivates you to motivate others? So how do you go about it? What is that thing? What is your strength that pushes you? Okay, during the bad times also you have to go ahead and do this, and then again, while you do it, others are motivated by you. So what is your strength?
Um, I, it's a great question. Thank you. I think it's just resiliency. You know, it's having a real goal in mind. That goal is not just in your mind, but in your heart as well. And knowing that goal is actually a great goal, and it will impact a lot of lives and the world. So those things, you can be inner motivated in those things already. You know, as I mentioned earlier, that this space that we're in, this industry we are in, is really responsible for a better future of the world. You know, so that enough, and that kind of thinking enough is motivating for me. And then I always mention that to the team, that we are doing something amazing here. So and that's, I guess, how they get motivated as well.
Wonderful. I'm really impressed by the way you put your words and you put your speech. It's great. It's great. I mean, I think we all should have leaders like you who are such a great motivators and go-getters. So heartiest congratulations to you on the very, very well-deserved win. May you win many more
Thank
such
you. Thank
awards,
you very
and
much.
we call you back to on our platform to receive them. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank you, Geeta. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Okay, so all right, dear audience member, I guess we have come to our last category of the evening for today. So let us see what the category is. Okay, so the category is Best Solar Project of the Year. As I always do, let me give you few hints about our winning company. It is a rooftop project of 393.6 kilowatt peak. The total solar production of this project is 290 AC. All the innovations done for the project construction system were under Meralco's net metering scheme. With the use of net metering, even if the demand load was minimal, the power generated from the solar was supplying the grid, which Meralco pays back to the customer. Quite an efficient project, I must say. So let us see who the winner is. All right, so the award goes to Proenso. I must say, Proenso doing an amazing workout here. 3 awards in a row for the evening. Quite a good work. Unfortunately, Miss Ida had to leave. She's traveling right now, and I don't think we have any other representative from Proenso for today. But we would like to congratulate the entire team of Proenso for doing so well, and 3 awards in a row. I'm sure they are traveling for because they're going to have a great party tonight. So thank you so much. Heartiest congratulations to Proenso again. Well, with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our award ceremony. Heartiest congratulations to all the winners and their teams and the companies. Special thanks to each and every audience member for being a part of our award ceremony today. So keep tuned in to our Solar Quarter updates and upcoming events. Hope to see you all in our upcoming events again. Till then, stay safe and stay happy. Thank you.